Hey there, I'm Brittany Schroeder, and business and marketing are my jam. I'm here to walk you step by step through this crazy thing we call business. I'm a small town girl, chocolate eating, Diet Coke drinking mom, marketing guru, automation Jedi, and all around good time. This is your weekly dose of all things business and life, sprinkled with some fun. This is the Redefine Business Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Redefine Business Podcast. I'm so excited for my guest today. I met Travis at it was like a Shark Tank thing at a local university where we were judges. But Travis is the co-founder of Quack, which is a car wash that I use. So that's good that I can say that I use it, right? But I have a membership there. So I was super excited to meet him and to hear his story. So Travis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be on. This is awesome.
Yeah. Well, Travis, tell us your story. Tell us where you started and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, thanks. This is super great to be on. I had a great time doing that, judging that competition. And that's a passion for sure. Entrepreneurship is in my blood. And so seeing these young people and with ideas and passion and energy is super cool. I grew up kind of in an entrepreneur home, so kind of had that in my DNA, if you will. My dad had a fascinating business actually, where he would bulletproof cars for wealthy diplomats, foreign government officials, and so that sounded pretty normal to me growing up, and I realized that was not very normal. And so his background was in the government and just kind of fell into an opportunity to start a business. And so I watched him kind of go through the entrepreneurship cycle and be his own boss. And I kind of had that in the back of my head, but didn't know how that was going to play out for me. Wasn't really interested. There wasn't really room or interest for me to kind of go into that business with him. But I came up to go to school at BYU, where I met a bunch of people, but really kind of connected with a few people in a close group of friends that I knew were going to be successful. And that's kind of where it started for me was understanding that even though I was entrepreneurial, I didn't like to necessarily do things on my own. I knew I would probably be better off in a partnership. And so as I surrounded myself with people that I could see would be successful, I kind of made a note to myself: if I have an opportunity to work with this person or that person down the road, I would jump at it. And so I graduated with my undergrad in communications. I always knew I wanted to get an MBA. And so I did that, entered the workforce, got a career. It was the internet boom. And so I kind of bounced around between a few internet startups, which was fascinating. These pre-revenue kind of high energy places to work where, working long hours and lots of excitement about potential, but not necessarily great business plans necessarily with all of them. And so but every opportunity was just a learning one, and meeting lots of people. But in my MBA while I was going to MBA school, then I met with in a condo. I bought a condo. I knew, I was tired of paying rent to somebody else, and so I said, well, while I'm going to school, I can buy a condo, have my roommates pay rent while I went to school, and cover the costs of the mortgage. So started doing that, and across the hallway, a couple moved in. They bought the condo across the hallway, and they moved in, and I became friends with them. And then I met my wife. We got married and stayed in that place. So we owned condos facing a hallway in this condo unit in Provo, Utah. And it was Jason Johnson and his wife, Debbie, and we just became really fast friends. We would get together almost every night and play games. And we were just really tight. He was going to the MBA program as well. So anyway, he graduated, but while he was in school, his father-in-law had retired to St. George and wanted to do a car wash business. And so, as a business plan project, Jason Johnson, my buddy, and our across the hallway here was doing a business plan project for his MBA program, and helping his father-in-law start a car wash in St. George. And so, flash forward 5 years, we both graduated, got our MBAs, and went into the workforce. And he had left and gone to Northern California, where he was from. Worked for HP for 5 years. I stayed in Utah, worked for some .coms until the .com bubble burst, and then I did some real estate, land acquisition. And it was about that time that he was realizing he could either stay at HP and do the corporate ladder, or go off and do something entrepreneurial. And he had in the back of his head this idea about car washes. And so in Sacramento, California, he looked around and saw there was an opportunity to do some car washes there. Called me up, and it was good timing as I kind of bounced between a few startups, but nothing really latched on and was moving forward. And asked me if we wanted to move to Sacramento to start a car wash company, and I was like, "What? What are you talking about? A car wash?" And we went out and visited them, and it obviously beautiful weather and a nice place to live. A little more expensive than were used to, but we packed up the family, moved to Sacramento. We had two little kids at the time. Oh, actually, I just had our third, and moved to Sacramento, where we opened a single car wash, eventually two car washes. He ran one and I ran the other. At night, we would get together and write the business plan, the marketing plan, kind of plan for the future, the operations manuals, and just kind of plan. So the two of us were kind of the sweat equity partners, but we didn't have any money to start this business. So we found three wonderful gentlemen that were in business together already in storage units and mobile home parks and an appraisal business. And it was at the point of their career where they could diversify and we really convinced them. They weren't necessarily interested at first, but we convinced them that there was an opportunity in car washes, and they saw the car wash industry probably even a little with a little more vision than we did. And we knew that we could probably build a chain of car washes and be successful at it. We believed in ourselves, but they had seen the industry as a whole, kind of this mom and pop defragmented industry where the largest car wash chains in the country had 4, 5, 6 car washes. It was just kind of this generational approach where every car wash had a single owner and was passed down, from father to son or whatever. And they had seen that happen in the storage unit and mobile home parks where it was really defragmented. And then over time, a few players were able to kind of roll up, grow, and become kind of eventually 3 or 4, 5 national brands. And they had done that in storage units, and saw the car wash industry as kind of prime for that. And it happened over the next 20 years. We started with 2 locations in Sacramento, went through a recession and some other things that, nothing ever went exactly as we had planned. And we had a lot of ups and downs and times where we didn't think we were going to make it. But eventually we were able to, the first kind of successful piece was, we had kind of stalled out a little bit in Sacramento with 6 locations. The recession of 2008 hit, and we were nervous that we weren't going to succeed. But at the same time, we came across an opportunity with this car wash chain called Quack, because we were called Splash and Dash Car Wash.
Are Splash and Dash still around? Sounds familiar.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Well, that was part of the problem is when we found Quack, and we acquired Quack out of northern Texas, Amarillo, just these small towns, but a successful car wash chain that had developed into 6 locations in northern Texas. so we ended up with these two brands, and we were like, what do we do with Splash and Dash, and what do we do with Quick Quack? And but Splash and Dash, we had thought we had secured the naming rights, the trademark for that to grow national if we wanted to, but it turned out we hadn't. We had kind of trusted a lawyer to do the due diligence on that, and it didn't come to pass. So Quick Quack had that. It was a unique name and had secured the trademark for that. And so we ultimately had to decide, but we kind of did, are we going to keep two brands? And we knew we didn't really want to do that.
Sounds like you're kind of forced because of the trademark stuff.
Yeah,
though.
we were kind of forced, but it was really a struggle because we were like, Quick Quack. Well,
yeah, you were
really,
attached. You were attached.
Yeah, really strange name and kind of silly, and a duck and but we would ask people, kind of did some informal polling and friends and family, and people either loved it or hated it, but they remembered it.
Yeah.
And we kind of realized that we had stumbled onto something that could be really cool. And so as the marketing kind of part of our partnership, I just turned to my partners and said, this, I think we can do something with this duck and make it a pretty cool brand. And so we rebranded. And at that time we expanded into Texas. And since then, we've kind of slowly grown into, we're now entering our sixth state, and we have 270 locations.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
It's been mostly just an amazing experience to be a part of building a brand, building a company, and getting to know so many amazing people.
Yeah. A few things that you said that I wanted to address, I find it interesting because you said you surrounded yourself with people who you thought would be successful. And I think that speaks volumes because, what's the saying, like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room. But, finding people who push you. And I think a lot of times we are kind of drawn to people who aren't, like, it's intimidating to be, not the most successful one in the room, but like surrounding yourself. There's just something about that energy that I always love going to, like, masterminds and stuff like that, because it's things that I'm like, oh, I would have never thought of that. Like, I'm teaching, I'm a coach and I teach people who are learning, but it's so important to surround yourself with people who, like, push you and who have, they're ahead of you, they're a chapter ahead of you. So I love that. The other thing, we judge that, what was it called? I'm trying to remember the name of it. What was it? It starts with a Z. Did it start with a Z? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But we judged this thing, and it was interesting. And I don't know what your thoughts were, but so we judged, and it was these people that came up with all these business ideas. And I kept thinking in my head, that is a really great idea, but do they have what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Because, and I say this all the time to, like, my clients, like, you can have a great idea, a genius idea, but it is hard. It is rough being an entrepreneur, and it's about consistency and failing and trying again and failing and failing. And it's hard. And you kind of shared in your story where you went through the recession, and people, like, might look at you and say, like, oh my gosh, you're so successful. But I bet you have a million stories about all the failures along the way where you're like, okay, is this even going to work? So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, getting to where you are now and overcoming, like, consistency and pushing through and all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the most significant thing is probably there was this stretch where we were still just in Sacramento, had these locations. If you look at Quick Quack Car Wash, or really any car wash right now, you'll probably associate it with the unlimited car wash membership. That's something that's really been a game changer in the industry. But that didn't exist. And so we were dependent on repeat customers coming back. And there were, we started in Sacramento, saw an opportunity because there was kind of a lack of car washes, especially the express model that we were developing. But so customers would be like, in California in the wintertime, it's still nice weather, but it rains periodically and regularly. And then in the summer, you have literally 6 months without a drop of rain. It's just beautiful and sunshine and people washing their cars. But so we would get, our customers around October, November would literally say to us, okay, we'll see you in April. And we'd be like, no, please, you can wash your car in the wintertime. And so we kind of knew that we would have this drop off in the winter, but not as significant as it ended up being. And from a cash flow standpoint, we were really struggling. trying to build these car washes to the level that we needed them to be profitable. And so that's part of why we started to look outside of the state to a different weather pattern. But in that stretch of both, the weather and the economy, we also had in the same week, we had two break-ins at two of our facilities where they pulled up a truck to the front of the car wash, broke in, wrapped a chain around our safe, and dragged it out through the front door.
Oh my gosh.
Then they probably got away with a couple $100, but the damage, that they did was so much more significant. And then the most crazy story possible that in fact, it's so crazy that we were investigated a little bit for it being real was in 1 week we had a taxi driver run into our water main at the car wash, and so he ended up like with this. We ended up with this 20-foot geyser that was flooding the parking lot. In fact, it was on the news, and they said free car wash at Splash and Dash
Oh,
because
geez. Yeah.
they were being funny. And so the plumber comes out and turns off the water to repair the plumbing. We get back up and running, but during this process, the plumber had turned off obviously all the water, but had turned off the fire suppression system to the building, and so coincidentally,
Oh no.
that next week there was a small electrical fire. This was
Oh
an
no.
old wooden car
Yeah.
wash building.
Yeah.
It was a small electrical fire that the would have just been put out immediately, but the sprinklers didn't come on because the water had been turned off. And so this building, our first car wash acquisition, and the place where we had our offices, just burned down. And so we had these break-ins, and the car wash burned down, and we were just like, is the universe trying to tell us something here
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we're not gonna work? And it was rough. And fortunately, one of the good things about we've all heard nightmare partnership stories, but
Yeah. Yeah.
with the five of us, I just feel like I kind of hit the lottery with four amazing partners that there's no egos, and we all have a lot of different strengths. And at any given time, any of us could be really discouraged, but with the five of us kind of believing in each other, it made all the difference. And we said, those three partners had another office somewhere else, and so we moved in with them for a little bit. And besides the physical support, the emotional support, and they'd been around the block a few times. They basically were mentors of ours. And yeah, but there were plenty of times to throw in the towel and say we're done. But you know, we also believed in the concept, believed in each other, and there was enough good things happening along the way that kind of said, we can make it happen. And we still say, as you mentioned about people, it's all about people.
Hmm.
Initially, it was all us, right? We were the ones, the chief cooks and bottle washers, and did everything. In fact, we joke about, we were running the car washes, but we were having to be the maintenance people as well, and that wasn't in our skill set at all. And um, since then, we've been able to bring on people, and every time we bring somebody on, they do it better than we had been doing it, and they're smarter and specialized. And now since we've been doing this 20 years, we've grown. A lot of these people have been with us for more than a decade now, and they're the ones that we, like you said, we're not afraid to bring on somebody that's smarter and
Yeah.
better at
Yeah.
this job than we are. And we have this amazing executive team now that we can look to the future and say, this company's in a good place because we've got amazing people. We got together as a partnership when we finally turned the corner and said, this is going to work. It's working, and it's going to be successful. We said we need a vision or a mission for this company that we know we want to be the best at washing cars, but that's not what's going to get us up in the morning every day for the next 20 years. We need something that's bigger, and so we all had a passion for teaching and mentoring. And so we said we want to be in a position. We know we're going to be able to have an opportunity to employ lots of people over the next, decades, and a lot of them are going to be first time, second time job people, because we employ a lot of we're competing essentially for fast food on the front lines of our car wash. They're just cashiers, and but also we have a store leader for every location, and we have an opportunity to really teach and instill some important skills in that group of people. And so now we have people that have been with us for years and even decades at and developing skills, and we're not just teaching them about car washing or even about business and leadership. We're teaching them about finances and how to get involved in the community and how to change lives, and why it's important maybe to own a home. All these things that it's so much more satisfying and fulfilling to change somebody's life than it is to teach them how to wash a car.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I love that because it's all about relationships and people, and, rising tides lifts all ships, right? Like, so if we can help others, like, we will rise too. So I love that. That's awesome. So, okay, one more question, because I'm just like fascinated here. So 20 years. So at like what year was like the turning point for you where you were like, okay, this is getting a little bit easier. Like now it's like the momentum's going. How many years into it before you started to say like, okay, it's going to happen?
So we started in 2004. It was
Okay.
the very end of 2004. So that's why in November we celebrated our 20-year anniversary. In 2005 and six is when we built up in Sacramento.
Mhm.
And then we joke about that Quick Quack acquisition that almost fell through, honestly. In fact, if we had not, if the previous owner of Quick Quack hadn't have been this just wonderful and full of integrity, because we were out of contract. We fell out of
Mhm.
contract. We hadn't secured our loans to be able to pull off this acquisition, and he had every right to take our deposit and run.
Yeah.
Instead, we said we need 2 more weeks, and he said, "I'll give it to you." And we were able to close that. We joked that it was the last bank loan that happened before the banks closed in 2008 and the
Oh,
recession hit hard. Probably wasn't, but it was close. It felt like it to us. Like if we hadn't have pulled that off, we probably wouldn't have succeeded. And so we did that. We did that acquisition. We became Quick Quack. And then we were in the recession. So we didn't really grow for the next few years. But that opportunity, so Quick Quack had been doing the unlimited car wash model. They were one of the first in the country to do that. And that's been a secret for us. Not a secret, but an opportunity. Every time we try not to do a lot of acquisitions, actually. We try to do a lot of building we love our car wash model, our
mhm.
building that is branded and looks great. And it's just so much easier to build from scratch than it is to try to acquire something and
Yeah.
remodel it and make it
Yeah.
fit. And so we don't do a lot of acquisitions, but when we do, we always look to see what we can learn from what they were doing. And fortunately for us, they had been doing this unlimited car wash model that ended up being a game changer, not just for us, but for everybody in the industry. And so we latched onto that. We incorporated it into Sacramento. And so now we had the opportunity to, like, in the wintertime, to keep people paying a monthly
Yeah.
subscription, and they would stay with
Residual.
us, even though
Yeah.
they weren't necessarily going to use it as
Hmm.
much in the wintertime. But now we had this steady income cash flow that helped make the business, and so both of those started to go. And once the economy started to pick up a little bit, I would say everything kind of started happening at the same time. So it was probably 2011, 2012 that we were coming out of the recession, but also this unlimited car wash model was really taking off. People were understanding, hey, I can pay monthly and wash as much as I want. That's
Hmm.
really kind of cool and a
Hmm.
new concept. They were used to it with the fitness, that had happened with the gyms and the memberships there. And so with the economy picking up, and the unlimited membership thing kind of catching on in these two markets that we had, it started to really turn and be successful. I think when what we realized was um, the industry also started to shift where it was not just, we had joked that when we hit 7 locations, which was really early on, it put us in the top 50 car wash companies in the country.
Really?
And
Wow.
with just 7 locations, we were like, that's crazy. That's how defragmented it was. I mean, it was all mom and pops. And so there was this new energy in the car wash industry of kind of consolidation, people being private equity starting to be interested in it. And so private equity companies were looking for a successful platform, basically a chain that was being successful and doing it right, that they could invest in and then grow. And whether it be from ground up greenfield building car washes and acquisitions, it was kind of a race. But we already knowing how critical it was for our partnership, the sense of all of us really sharing similar values and getting along. We didn't want to just partner with any private equity firm, and so we were very selective. But I think probably when we realized it was going to work was when we were approached by a private equity firm out of Southern California, um, and they ended up, I mean, it was really just kind of a match, really good, high integrity, high valued individuals, that they weren't just in it to kind of, most of the time private equity or venture capital come in for a 5 or 6 year turn, and then they're trying to make some changes and get their money and move on. This was more of a partnership where they were kind of, not necessarily that they were going or that they wanted to be in it for the long haul, but they would if they needed to. And it turns out that they have been with us now for, since this was about 2012. So they've been with us for a decade, and it's just a really successful partnership. But that was probably the point where they brought in a bunch of capital that we could use to grow. And we expanded into, at the same time we were expanding into different states. That we said, this thing's catching on, it's successful. We don't have to worry about making payroll or if we can spend money on some marketing. We kind of had now established that pattern and had the right team in place. So all the things kind of came together about the same time, and then so now for the last decade, it's just kind of been
Yeah,
a
that's awesome.
race,
Yeah.
to grow as fast as we can.
Well, and I think it's just like being consistent, trying new things, like you're always learning. There's always something to learn, and you learn through failure. And, like you said, like finding people who have done it before and are successful at it, like that's how you get like growth. So, well, that's awesome. Well, this has been so fun because I am a frequent of the car wash. So I always think of you now because I met you. I'm always like, this is Travis. This is Travis. So I love it. Well, I like to end all my podcasts with asking my guests 2 questions. So, first of all, Travis, what is a pet peeve? Give me your pet peeve.
This is an easy one for me, and it's probably says more about me than it does about the people that in my life. But
Yeah.
the pet peeve is I like to be early. My dad always said, and I'm sure it's not unique to him, but early is on time and on time is late.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just like, I like to have the peace of like not being in a rush to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
I would much rather get somewhere 10 minutes early and sit there than have the rush of, oh, I'm going to be late, or I hate making people wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's so, so
Yeah.
that was kind of built into me from the, but then I also realized that at the same time I have to be patient, and not
Yeah.
everybody's built that way.
That that's
So
that's one of mine too. Like respect. I'm trying to teach my teenage daughter that like respect people's time. You be on time. Their time is important. Respect their time. So,
that's
yep,
right.
that's one of mine too. Okay, what is a simple pleasure?
I just like to, this probably sounds a little bougie, but a few years ago we bought a massage chair.
Oh yeah,
And so we set. I actually I was at a car wash convention, and at like any convention, they'll like take advantage of people being on their feet for a really long time, and so they have these massage chairs, and they were running a special that I couldn't turn down. And in my mind, I bought it for my wife, but I think she realizes, and I realize that I use it way more than she does. And so, yeah, I'll like to just, spend some time in that every day. And that is something that just rejuvenates me for sure.
Yes, we have a friend that has one, and I frequent their massage chair. So I feel you on that. Well, awesome. Well, Travis, thank you so much. This has been so fun.
It's been amazing. Appreciate you having me on.
Let's not stop the party here. Head on over to my Instagram or Facebook group, Redefine Your Business, and let me know your thoughts about today's show. I will see you again, same time, same place, next week.